So Meredith, I'm hearing a lot about data.
Yep.
Data on the farm, data for farmers, data
Yeah.
for ranchers, for science, and so on. But one of the topics here that you're speaking about, matter of fact, has to do with the privacy of data. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, as a millennial, I really don't share the concerns as the older generation on privacy.
Because we have none.
Well, I mean, yeah, if the data is going to be shared to the public, I would ask for some anonymity on that. But really, when I think of data, I think of it more of as a collaborative effort. So I see it as an open cloud source format where anyone involved to take my data and for me to take their data could share back and forth. So more of a really open collaborative environment is something
So
that
more
I see.
like blockchain.
Yeah, similar to blockchain, yeah. I'd like to see no restrictions. Basically, I don't want someone to own my data. I don't want to have to pay for someone else's data, so to speak. I think that poses great limitations to people, and so I'd see more. I'd really push for more of an open software type system to where I can upload any random data such as my cattle's genetics and have a researcher say, hey, I'd like to correlate that with something that I'm researching on, randomly, and just
And everybody
really,
being able to work together and
yeah,
build it to the next level.
yeah, and have it all together. I think there's a big social dynamic that's lacking, connectability. So having people be able to contact each other easily, ask follow-up questions. I'd love to be able to read a paper from a researcher and say, hey, this is really intriguing to me. These are my unique variables to my ranch, X, Y, and Z, and I'd like to apply them. Can you give me recommendations or something like that? So I think, more of a social media connectivity aspect to it would be extremely important. Our ranch has collaborated for the past 2 decades with the Noble Research Institute, and the Noble Research Institute is basically 350 employs 350 PhDs and scientists, researchers in all aspects related to agriculture. And so that extends my knowledge from not just a rancher, but to all those PhDs. And how that is really set up works really well for my operation, because there's a consultant that comes out with all of those knowledge from Noble that helps connect me and really customize recommendations based on my unique operation that I have on my ranch. So it's working really well. I'd encourage people to really look closely at that model and how successful it is.
So ranchers are under the microscope, if you would, as it relates to sustainability, at least from a consumer point of view.
Yes.
So where do we find the real facts about what's going on with sustainability on the ranch?
Yeah, I would encourage, I see a lot of data out there that has been misrepresented and taken away from the big picture of what these reports are saying. So, agriculture accounts, according to the EPA's report, agriculture accounts for only 9% of those greenhouse gas emissions. And something that has never been taken into account is our factory. And what I mean by that is that I raise 46,000 pounds of beef. And it sounds like a lot, but it is just like a day in the life of one restaurant, okay? It's not very much. But to do that, I have to take care of my national park, and that's 3,000 acres of pristine wilderness. And that wilderness is sequestering carbon, it's purifying water, it's habitat for endangered species on my ranch, and those things have not been taken into account. So absolutely, cows emit methane when they burp, but it's I'd like to think of it as more of a recycled um, emission. So they emit methane, but the land that I'm preserving is going back, sequestering carbon back into the soil. And so, that needs to be taken into account. I got my master's in landscape architecture, focusing on sustainability from the University of New Mexico. And so, my unique perspective is one of land use patterns. And all around me and my ranch, I see other ranches just like mine being sold to developers and turned into suburban sprawl, and I think the most important thing that I can do as a rancher is to provide food to the planet responsibly, but approach my job with a stewardship and conservation ethic, and protect my 3,000 acre national park. And I'm very passionate about that, and I'm working with science and researchers to back me up on that effort. A program that I'm piloting right now is the Ecosystem Service Market Consortium. And they're taking those actual measurements. So how much carbon we're sequestering, if we're a carbon sink or if we are indeed a carbon emitter, our water quality and quantity standards, and also how much biodiversity we preserve. And this program is looking to pay ranchers like us for those services that we're providing. And so the potential for this is to turn every rancher's eye towards selling and not just focusing on pounds of beef, but focusing on carbon, focusing on biodiversity, focusing on water quality and quantity.
And really looking much more holistically
Absolutely.
than ever before.
Yeah, and I think this will be an utter game changer, and I think it will preserve an enormous amount of land, help people keep their land and their families, and help the endangered species that call my ranch home. And I have all the hope in the world for it. And I think that the future of agriculture will be this. It will be one of regenerative, holistic, and we're all going to be carbon sinks in the future. That's my goal and my passion.
And thank you for joining us today on Farm Food Facts.
Yes, sir. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.